about Lyle McDonald? That's someone I haven't heard in forever. Should do a video on him. Is this like an ongoing thing right now? Because I know they've hated each other forever. Oh my God. 3 hours? Three hours?
Well, he used to have nothing but the utmost flattery.
Yeah, until I was mean to him.
And Lyle, listen, I think you're brilliant. I have the utmost respect for Lyle.
I think Lyle probably smarter than me.
Now Mike can't even hear my name without losing his mind.
Lyle.
By the way, Solomon Nelson is a great YouTuber. He might not have the most expensive setup or the most comprehensive fucking YouTube personality or presence in the world, but he is a great YouTuber.
Listen, Lyle, we need your help. Lyle McDonald, we need your help. Hey, Lyle McDonald, fuck you.
You'd be like, you Lyle McDonald? Well, that depends.
Debating Lyle McDonald, like if he was in front of me, he would take the.
You know, Lyle has like autism, right? I've spoke to him many times. He's very, very autistic. Like genuinely, I'm not making that up. Happy to have a good night, man. I'm not making that up. He's actually autistic.
World for me to not choke him to death.
So I always move out of arm's length.
I'm not getting stronger week to week. Am I training wrong? If you're getting stronger week to week, you're under training.
Because we actually have the genetics to grow muscle, unlike him. And that is meant as an insult because I don't like Lyle.
My methods work, Mike, and you proved by your own logic that yours don't.
The only reason I compete is to illustrate to people that the methods that we espouse at Renaissance Periodization are effective.
It worked for you. If by work you mean
This is horrible. That is such a troll. I think, look, here's the thing though. I think that the reality is Mike knows how to fucking leverage the shit out of the internet. He's not dumb. He's a very fucking brilliant man. And I don't know if everything he's saying is actually true in regards to like hating people and stuff. It could just be tomfoolery, but I don't know.
abject failure at the only sport you ever tried to be good at.
You started this, Lyle. You made fun of me first. I have more willpower than you. I'm just better than you, Lyle.
I know one of, well, now his ex-coach. Some of the questions that Mike, world's bodybuilding expert, has asked him, and he doesn't know shit.
And also in every category of human behavior, I'm tougher than you. I can train closer to failure than you. I can do it for longer. I'm funnier than you. I'm smarter than you. And I'm better at being a than you.
Dude, Mike, it's no chill, bro. He's actually like that in person, too. Oh, my God. Mike's just not cut out for this sport. I would actually agree with you. I think Mike just doesn't have a good set of genes, for one, and two, he's got too many goddamn distractions, and his ego is too big. In any sport that it requires a high degree of performance, you have to have a very, very humbled position. You have to understand that you're at the bottom, and you can't have this big ego. You have to be you have to squash that shit right when you enter the door. And I think Mike's ego may have gotten a little bit too big as he's become so successful, and his infamy has gone out the fucking wazoo. Like, the man can pull up anywhere and everyone knows him. And so it's like, at a certain point, you kind of let that ego feed into itself, and it's like, yeah, I'm going to be fucking Mr. Olympia, you know? I'm going to fucking get cut no matter what, dude. And it just fools you. It lies, bro. It lies to you. Your ego straight lies to you, and it convinces you that you have it down, and you are far from having it down. Mike's ego is insane. Yeah, I agree. Mike can definitely get an IFBB Pro card if he ate better. I don't know about that, bro. I think his genetics are truly like mid-shelf kind of genetics. I honestly believe that.
Dr. Mike Israetel is a competitive bodybuilder and highly successful YouTuber who's known for making critiques of other people's fitness advice on the Renaissance Periodization channel. Mike criticizes
I just want Solomon to read books to me, bro. I could fall asleep listening to Solomon.
the way people train, the way people eat, and even the way people take performance-enhancing substances. from fitness influencers to Hollywood celebrities and even professional bodybuilders. But what about Mike's own advice and practices in competitive bodybuilding? Can they be criticized? Well, if you were to ask Mike, then the answer would most likely be no, because Mike only accepts criticism from top experts in his field.
I don't know why I fucked up. And if you think you know, you are presuming you know more than me about the thing I'm one of the top experts in the world in, and also the thing I'm literally involved in myself. So whatever ideas you have about how I can improve, just fuck right off.
By his own admission, Mike can't.
That's actually crazy. That's actually crazy. Like, I know Mike can be like that. It's just dangerous. It's just dangerous to be like that. Like, have that opinion of, if anything you say to me is criticism, fuck right off. That's a big ego, if you've ever seen one. That's huge ego. That's the exact reason he's never placed well at a single show, is because of that.
Figure out why he effed up.
Jesus fucking Christ. This is real? Oh my God. What the fuck is this? What is this? This is fatter than I have ever been, and he's standing on stage. What the fuck? Hold on, check this out, guys. I am eating like a fat fuck right now. I'm leaner than that by a mile. How do you get like that? Oh my God. What?
In competitive bodybuilding. It truly is an enigma. We need a top expert on the case. They aren't easy to find, but folks, I have just the right man.
It's also one of the reasons he doesn't compete a lot in BJJ. He's afraid to put it on the line and lose. Yeah, I could see that. Especially in combat sports, like going into Muay Thai, you think that you know it all, like you, because I'm big, right? And back then I was even bigger. You go to Muay Thai and the guys are like 130 pounds, 140 pounds, and you think like you got it. You learn really quick that you don't have it, and you get humbled. But if you have a big ego, you'll go in there and you'll be like, fuck these guys. You'll just be like that piece of shit guy. And then you get your shit rocked and you're completely embarrassed in front of everybody. And then it's just like this horrible fucking thing. You get miserable. You leave the sport. Like you never want to be a part of it again. So I could see that, because his ego is a little too big to support like getting his ass whooped in reality.
Lyle McDonald, welcome
Howdy.
back. Hey,
Hey,
thank you for joining me.
Hi.
And thanks for constantly giving me shout-outs on your YouTube channel, by the way.
My buddy Solomon Nelson, who does some fantastic videos. Oh yeah, no, absolutely. It's more people need to know about. You're doing the stuff that I used to do or wanted to do and never got around to. So I want more people to see more fact and evidence-based examinations of the nonsense that goes on in this industry, because there's a lot of it.
Mike and Lyle go way back. Tell me about that volume debate.
Mike just talked in circles.
Dude, no way. This guy is peak comedy, bro. That's so funny.
Absolutely give qualification.
It was 90 minutes of wasted time. Truly
Oh my God.
wasted time.
In fact, Mike used to hold Lyle in high regard.
I have the utmost respect
So number one difference is volume.
for Lyle.
I think Lyle probably is smarter than me and knows a lot of shit.
Now Mike can't even hear my name without losing his mind. Why? Go listen to everything I said. I said, I don't care how he trains. Perfectly fine with how he trains. His information is shit, and he's telling you what he's telling you is wrong. And apparently 5-6 years later, it still bothers him.
The details of that will come later in Chapter 3. For now, I'll outline the structure of this video. In Chapter 2, Lyle and I critically analyze Mike's fitness advice. In Chapter 3, we critically analyze Mike's rebuttal to one of Lyle's past criticisms of Mike,
Yeah, man, he's got to make more of these kind of videos. My goal, I aspire to make these fucking length of videos, like these absolute behemoths of videos. But do you guys realize how hard it is? Like, I commend Solomon so much because it is genuinely fucking hard to do this kind of content. Not only to keep people engaged for 3 fucking hours, but to edit this much footage and piece it all together in a way that's very concise and congruent. Immensely hard. Absolutely love it.
Which is that what Mike claims is muscular failure actually isn't. In Chapter 4, we critically analyze Mike's competitive bodybuilding career, such as it has been. I conclude in Chapter 5 by discussing what you can take away from this whole expose. The first thing I asked Lyle to do was critique Mike Israetel's fitness advice in a similar vein to the way Mike criticizes everyone else's advice. We went through several of Mike's claims. Here's what Lyle had to say about them. He says that to have a very low body fat percentage, even to the point where you have striated glutes, isn't unhealthy.
Low body fat's not being healthy. It just is resting on an, I'm sorry, forgive me, it's resting on an empty assumption. People see striated glutes and they go, that can't be healthy. And I would love to be in real life with that person instead of over social media and say, okay, no, I hear you. Why not? But can you explain to me why it's not healthy? And usually they can't.
Okay. That is, well.
He does make an exception for women in the form of the estrogen goes down, they lose bone mineral density.
It actually leads to long-term bone loss. So fat goes out the window. Being lean for females, very lean, is definitely not a good thing.
But yeah, he says striated glutes aren't inherently unhealthy.
What does he think happens to men's hormones at that level?
He goes,
Yeah, I mean, he's basing that claim. I can see what he's saying. He's basing that claim off people who use performance-enhancing drugs. Like, I don't think... Now, this is Mike doing something erroneous on social media, which is creating generalized statements that don't have specificity, but that's also in part how you get to be so famous on internet. You make very generalized claims. You have a great swath of people that agree with you, a great swath of people that disagree with you, and that commotion in your comment sections and interactions creates virality. And so this is what I meant by, like, Mike's a good social media guru because he can do these things. I don't think what Mike was saying was based around natural individuals, because in natural individuals, I would argue 10,500 million% that is not healthy to be anywhere near a sub 10% body fat. In non-natural individuals, when you're taking a little bit of testosterone and a little bit of the other gals and girls, you got more to play with. And you could argue that your function isn't inhibited by being that lean. I know for me personally, like, being that lean really isn't that much of an issue. I can generally tolerate it for a long amount of time, but I'm using testosterone. So I could see where, you know, the delusion could be seemingly present, but maybe he was just making an overly generalized statement.
Testosterone goes down, but, you know, that doesn't mean you're less healthy.
Certain biomarkers like testosterone, estrogen, generally the sex hormones, they definitely take a hit when you're very, very lean. Slight downside. Okay.
Testosterone goes to castrate levels at that level, and I dare say the data on hypogonadism and health is pretty well established. So, yeah. Now, I'm actually going to give him the benefit of the doubt on this one. Not in what he said, but in that a defense could be made in his case. Because something that has fascinated me for years, we knew about all these adaptations to dieting. Metabolic rate, thyroid, nervous system, appetite, muscle loss, all this stuff. We knew it all happened. You looked at what happened to hormones. Testosterone goes castrate. T3 levels go down. Cortisol goes up. Estrogen and progesterone go down. You know, the whole hormonal profile. Muscle growth. blah, blah, blah. Protein synthesis goes down. All these things happen. Appetite goes up. But if you go back and look at the way drug using bodybuilders, what they sort of, through trial and error, figured out to do for contest prep, they were replacing or fixing every one of those systems. Testosterone goes down, take anabolic steroids. T3 drops, take thyroid medication. Sympathetic nervous system goes down, clenbuterol. Growth hormone screws up, growth hormone. Appetite suppressants. Now you've got the GLP-1 drugs. Going to put me out of a job. Whether they knew it or not, they were fixing each of these problems that occurred. Now, leptin would fix it all, but it never got out of the research stage, right? Other than for one disease condition. But leptin injections would have fixed all this at the central level, because the body would still think that you were fat and eating. But neither here nor there. If you look at a natural bodybuilder in contest shape, their system is completely.
Yeah.
There's a famous study on, it was something, it's got a turgid title, hormonal and endocrine responses to a high stress. Basically, it was a bunch of special forces guys that were forced to live on.
I've read this study. Yeah, it's a great study. I think it's also really interesting what he's saying about the whole the use of hormones was curated to fix the problems generated from being lean, like thyroid, testosterone, etc. It's so true. Basically, when I look at enhancements, it's like, okay, what are all the different pathways that exhibit benefit in terms of protein accretion? And you just go down the path. Like you have the beta-2 adrenergic system, like that actually initiates some muscle protein synthetic cascades. You have growth hormone, you have insulin-like growth factor, you have insulin, you have androgens, so on and so forth. Insulin sensitivity, of course. And so like you plug something in for each and every one of those locations, and you get someone that's very jacked and very muscular. You backlog all the deficiencies that could possibly happen in a human and then bring them to super physiological levels. Now you've got a really jacked person.
On no calories, 16 hours of exercise, of pack work, and very little sleep. They all ended up at like 5% body fat. Testosterone was castrate, cortisol was up, T3 was down.
All right, I don't mean to cannibalize his video, but I get the point. I want to see his other points.
How about some other irresponsible advice? Take a month off to see massive gains. Growth hack.
The growth hack is to take a month off of training once a year, every year, to grow more. That's a fresh, very resensitized muscle, sensitive to muscle growth, sensitive to training, because it hasn't.
All right, that's a wild statement. I will say the whole muscle sensitivity thing, that's not even like, where did that come from? I didn't realize he said that. That's embarrassing, to be honest.
Experienced it in a while.
Resensitization.
Oh, Jesus. The whole resensitization thing is hilarious. I mean, it's been.
My whole endocrine system was shot after I got out of the Marine Corps. Yeah, that tends to happen. So I actually, before I got on gear, I got several blood tests done, and I had very low testosterone. It was like sub 200 nanograms per deciliter. And I went to figure out why. I went to several different doctors about this specific issue, and we ended up doing like ultrasounds of my pituitary gland. Not ultrasounds, CAT scans, MRIs, I think. And what we found was that there was like damage to the tissue, but that was effectively caused by concussive blasts from like 25 Mike on Bradley. And apparently, I never do this, but apparently it's very common in like military personnel getting concussive blasts is to like have pituitary damage.
Been around for a while, and you know, they've done the occasional paper. There's a weird paper where they had people train as beginners, 3 weeks on, 3 weeks off, 3 weeks on, and they ended up at the exact same place. But these were neural strength gains, and it was water shifts anyway. And there was another one, they had to take a week off, and like, yeah, you see these. There's a paper that got a lot of press last year, and they were looking at molecular markers, and yeah, it caused these molecular markers to improve for growth.
No, it was just damage. It wasn't an adenoma. It was just pure tissue damage, like necrotic tissue, essentially.
But
yeah.
the paper itself said, well, it might be resensitization or it's probably just detraining. And this really argues for consistency in training, right? So way back, so we go way back. Let's go way back, way back. The old T-Nation days. You ever heard about the abcde diet? This anabolic burst cycling diet and exercise program. And there was this idea at one point that by deliberately causing muscle loss, by eating low protein and overtraining, would cause all these adaptations. They were basing this on people like underweight kids and malnutrition and rapid catch-up growth that occurs.
Oops. Hold on, folks. My headphones just decided to turn off randomly. Are they not going to turn back on? There we go.
Like when you fix protein energy malnutrition, like kwashiorkor and marasmus and stuff, that you would get this big rebound growth because you see this decrease in protein breakdown and blah, blah, blah. And like, yeah, and that's true. And you get rapid growth right until you regain what you lost. And then you're right back to where you started, right? This is like the guys that just swear up and down that post-competition, there is an anabolic rebound where you are primed to gain muscle mass, despite the fact that every system in your physiology is geared towards fat regain. Eric Trexler did a paper on that. The first few days, there's a huge increase in lean body mass. It's glycogen and water. And then over the next 6 weeks, 97% fat gain. Like every system in the body, the idea that you're primed to grow at the end of a contest diet. Because people, yeah, you get this big jack, so yeah, you take a month off and you shrink. Yeah, I bet you do get accelerated growth. It's called muscle memory. And you get right back to where you were, at which point, and if you'd spent that month training, you'd be further than you are now.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty obvious point to me. I feel like the rebound thing, I don't necessarily agree with. And I get that science might say one thing, but when you involve a lot of pharmaceuticals, again, like polypharmacy, to do multiple facets of different things to the human body, your physiology changes quite a bit. And so if you do rebound in a state where you're using pharmacology, I don't think you're going to partition that much fat, as it's very obvious the drugs that we're taking are going to help you partition differently than a normal human being. So that's very clearly stated there. But in those situations, taking time off is probably the most useless thing to do unless you're truly overtrained, which a lot of people, unless they're in prep or really heavy calorie deficit, doing lots of cardio, are not going to be that overtrained. Like, people are out here thinking they're bodybuilders and they're like Olympic level athletes. Like, you're not that crazy, dude. You go to the gym a couple times a week, like, chill out. You're not overtrained. You see there's like a lot of holistic doctors too. They're like, you're overtraining, you need a break. Like, oh my God, your CNS is fried. You need to take some time off before your endocrine system shuts down on you. And it's like, what are you talking about? Like, yes, we understand overtraining is real, but in most people, that comes at such a high level of performance, you can't even begin to describe. It's crazy, actually. It's like, it's actually crazy that people believe time off equates to better results. And oftentimes it doesn't. It just is what it is. This is exactly how you should train. An undulation of volume at / intensity to modulate recoverability. If you're under recovering, which you usually feel symptoms of pretty quickly, you slowly taper down on everything you're doing, but you don't stop and you just keep going. And then suddenly you push back up once you feel recovered. And at this point, because you found that you don't recover so well at doing whatever you're doing before, you drop the intensity of it down, like full stop.
It doesn't work that way.
Great response.
And the science doesn't support.
I'm curious on what he had to say about volume over progressive overload.
Totally. Does volume beat progressive tension overload? I believe that's one of Mike's older claims.
No.
So if we're really serious about saying it's tension, it's progressive intention, progress and tension that we're really going after, are we really prepared to defend that with data and experimentation and even just a mental thought experiment? And the answer is really, when it comes down to it, no, we're not. Volume is the boss and intensity is the assistant. The boss is useless without the assistant, but the boss is more important. So
I've been thumping the drum of progressive
That was
tension
like the
overload.
worst analogy I've ever heard in my life. The boss can't do anything without the assistant, but the boss is more important. By definition, the boss is able to do everything without the assistant because he became the boss and put himself into a position to hire an assistant. How did he get there in the first place? Also, whatever, we're talking about fucking like irrelevant shit, but regardless.
Over time, we've known since the fucking 70s, that is the stimulus for growth. Even the papers you
Lyle equals professor, Mike equals class clown. Actually based. There's a real argument right there.
read, go, tension is the initiator of growth. And then they blather about volume, right? Every paper that supposedly shows that volume is the primary driver of hypertrophy all have progressive tension overload built into the study design, with like 4 exceptions. We added weight to maintain the proper intensity. Everything else is being studied on a base of progressive tension overload. Ergo, that is primary, right? Because you can prove this to yourself, that in the long term, progressive tension overload is the key. Long term. Go find any dude in your gym who's not on Mike's special sports supplements. See what he's benching. Let's say it's 90 kilos for 10, 185 pounds in non-commie units. Come back a year later. If he's still only benching 185 by 10, I do not give a how many sets he's doing. He will be no bigger. Period. Come back and he's now up at 245, 115-ish kilos. He will be bigger.
Yep.
Right? Simple fact is that if you look at, there are no big natural bodybuilders who are not strong, or who, more importantly, have not gotten much stronger, right? Because this is all that matters. You should just be able to do one maximal isometric and grow. I go, well, no, that's not. Well, they were saying that would be sufficient. I go, but it's not. I go, we know that there is some number of high tension contractions required to turn on the growth mechanisms. We don't know how many it is yet, but we know that there is some number that is going to be required. But yeah, so in the long term, and people go, but well. And I've had people I've said that they're like, well, but I only squat, 365 by 8. I go, look, I'm not saying you're elite powerlifter strong. I go, but you cannot go from squatting 135 by 8 to squatting 365 by 8 pounds and not have bigger legs or be bigger. It's a bad example because backs, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Show me someone who's never squatted more than 85 by 8. They will not get bigger. It is a matter of getting strong.
This is so true. And I have been horrifically I think maybe you guys see this if you like keep on me, like tabs on me from where I go on like different podcasts and stuff. But I've been a victim of like so many different opinions and I never share mine. I'm just like, yep, like, what do you think about this? Oh, that's cool. Interesting. I might try that. What do you think about this? Oh, that's cool. I don't really try to inject myself because there's so much we don't know, oddly enough, about exercise sciences. But this is so true. I think this is the one thing that can be, there's just no argument at all. Strength or progressive overload, tension created in the muscle, mechanical tension increased by load is how you get bigger. I don't know, it's just so clear to me. Like you look at any compound movement the biggest bodybuilders are doing, they're doing it with like astronomical weights. How'd they get there? They didn't start there. I think it's a big proxy of strength. And I think the biggest failure in modern fitness that I've seen is by far people going to the gym day in and day out every single day, every single week for an entire month, for an entire year, and never challenging themselves with new weights. Like they never actually like push the weight up to any kind of significance. They just keep it where it is because it feels okay. And I think that's such a big flaw. I think that's where you miss your gains almost entirely, and you ruin your potential to basically, grow. Like you're doing all this work, but you're 1 foot in, 1 foot out kind of situation. So you're doing enough work to be suffering and to be like putting in the effort and to take the time and to do all these things, but you're 1 foot out as in you're not getting the results. So you're 1 foot in, you're doing the work, but you're not getting the results from doing the work. And you could theoretically likely do less work by just focusing on doing the minimum effective sets for you, and then increasing loads across a period of time. And that might save you 30 minutes a day, which is massive after 6 months. Massive,
Stronger relative to yourself in the same exercise, done in the same like there's a zillion qualifiers. I wrote like a 5-part series about tension on my website, but I'm like, I hate that I have to make all these qualifiers, but you people are determined to misunderstand.
No, I'm not prepping for a show. I just seemingly can't eat enough to get like any fatter, in the nicer way to say it. I would actually like to, because I feel better, heavier, or with more body fat, but I just genuinely cannot. I don't know.
It would take, but it's too long for me to write this paragraph. This is what I'm saying, but it is assuming that your form is not changing as you add weight. And like, yeah, if I take someone who's using too much weight on rows and I reduce the weight and let them use proper form, their back is now getting a stimulus. Well, see, lighter weight was growing. Like, no, but we're not talking about an exercise. We're talking about the muscle. And God Almighty, are you going there? It's like, it's aggressive illiteracy sometimes. But in the long term, and there's a reason a lot of good natural bodybuilders cross-compete in powerlifting. There's a lesson to be had there. There are no big, weak natural bodybuilders, period. You cannot find, even the pros, ignoring Mike, and there are guys that get away with, lighter, pumpier training and let the drugs do the work. Most of those guys are pretty damn strong.
That's true. Sorry, again, cannibalizing this content. I don't have the full 3 hours to go through it. Solomon, if you're watching, bless your heart for making this content. I'll love to review it on another time, but doing it live is just no way. This video would be like 6 hours long.
Like, higher volumes let you grow more. I think that's another just blanket assertion that he's made.
High volume training not only builds the most muscle, it breaks down the most muscle and requires the most calories to repair.
Like, there are 52 set per week programs, 45 set per week programs, 27 set per week programs, 18 set per week programs that all outperform the smaller set per week programs that were compared in those studies directly.
More volume equals more growth. Okay, cool story, bro.
He did place last. Cruel. Absolutely cruel.
Return on investment, U-shaped curve. Nah, it's just more volume equals more growth without any. Okay, cool. I'm still. Oh, the other thing this paper talked about, when they talked about the super high volumes, they also mentioned, this will get left out. One thing we did not address was, the long-term sustainability or in burnout issue. They also brought up the fact that in most of these super high volume studies, they're looking at like 1 or 2 muscle groups, right? That is still the question I'm waiting to have answered about this 52 set study. It was quads only. Hamstrings were like 4 sets and upper body was just, they gave a little something to do on the side. Okay. Assuming 52 sets per week. Oh, also that 52 sets is only for 2 weeks. That's not how any of this was presented. They didn't do 52 sets for 20 weeks. They built up to it. That was 2 maximum volume weeks. And the growth was still insignificantly better for the 2.5 times. But I asked the question, and I still ask the question. Let's assume 50 sets per week gives better growth based on this study in quads only. How do you do that for full body? It's just that simple, right? Chest, back, delts, biceps, triceps, quads, hamstrings, glutes, 8 or 9 muscle groups, depending on how you want to count it. Are you going to do 450 hard sets a week? No, because it cannot physically be done.
Can you imagine doing 450 hard sets a week? What the fuck would you be? Your life. So like on an average day, I train really fast. So like on an average day, I'll do 2, 4, 6, 8, about 10 to 11 sets per session. 10 to 11 sets per session. And that takes me a good hour and 15, hour and 20 minutes to do. So how the fuck would you fit in 42? So let's just take the time that I use now, and I'm able to give myself enough rest between each set to make sure that I'm getting adequate stimuli the second set, right? I'm able to push myself because I'm not overly fatigued. That would take me at least 6 hours, you know, somewhere in there, because I'm going to get more fatigued as time goes on. So there's going to be more rest required per set. I mean, that's crazy. And right now my current split is like upper, lower, upper, lower, upper. So each upper session I'm training push and pull, arms and shoulders. Each lower session I'm training quads and hamstrings and calves. So if I'm to like put that into a week, how does that even work? That would be true overtraining. Yeah, at that point, just make your bedroom your gym. Yeah, like there's no other way to do it. There's no other way to do it. Anyone arguing that 52 sets is optimal is insane.
Even in this study, they barely, they even talked about the highest volume group was really tired at the end of 2 weeks. That was 2 weeks of this. I did a video a while back. Sustainable training, right? Even if, and this was Mike's thing. Oh, and back to the volume debate. That was another one of Mike's arguments about using super high volumes. Well, maybe if you use really high volumes early in your career, maybe you can eke out a little bit more growth above your genetic limit.
If you get somewhere faster, you have gotten to a point in which you are still more youthful, less injury prone, and more likely to put on more gains. If someone reaches the tip of their spear at age 40, geez, you're 40, it's, like there's only so much you can gain after that. But if someone reaches the tip of their spear abilities by the time they're 30, they're still young, and they still have a potential to take that even further. So I think there's an absolute difference there as well.
That's not what a genetic limit is, knuckle. Okay.
Oh my God. Fuck knuckle. That one came out the back, dude. He got that one out he used his tongue to say that one. Jesus Christ.
Doesn't matter how you get there, you end up at the same point. Even if you get, and because somebody asked me that question, it's Q&A. You're like, will you gain faster or reach a higher level than you would by using moderate volumes for long periods? So they go, no, because a genetic limit is a genetic limit is a genetic limit. You're going to get to where you're going to get. Maybe, because Mike is like, well, maybe if you get closer to in 3 years versus, because he was like, well, rather than taking 7 years to reach your genetic limit, you get there in 5. It only takes 3 to 4 if you're doing it right. The 7 was just a thrown out number that is completely illegitimate. But the guy asked me, it's like, once you get, I go, yeah, you'll get to the same point and you won't burn out, you won't get injured, right? Because even if these short-term studies are showing what they're purported to show, which they're usually not, what do you do for the rest of the
the Art of Violence, thank you for your 2 USD, brother. Keep rocking the content. Talk about your Muay Thai. I will sometime. For sure.
As I like to jokingly say, and this is anecdote, so I know I'm the science guy, but my experience being hurt is not good for gains. And when people do this shit, they get hurt. All the people that jumped on the high frequency thing ended up with joint problems. All the people who did the MRV stuff ended up overtrained and injured. Rather than trying to get 5% every 8 weeks by doing triple the volume and then being injured for 3 months, you're better off getting 3% over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. Because the increase in gains by doubling your volume is never double. The return on investment is microscopic. Assuming most people get it anyway. So I said, you cannot do high volumes for all body parts. It can't be done. Even if you look at go back to Brad's study, when you actually, look at it, okay, so it was 9 versus 27 versus 45 sets, ostensibly, except that it was mostly compounds and they measured isolated muscles. So first, let's math this out rationally. You cut that set count in half, right? They did nothing but compound chest and measured triceps. It was not 9, 27, and 45 sets for triceps. We're like 4.5, 13, and 22. Okay. I absolutely believe that 12 was better than 4.5. We're going from suboptimal volumes to up. Even then, we thought about 10 to 20. 4.5 to 12, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And 12 to 22, there was no improvement. Okay. 12 to 20, same fucking thing as always. It's the same for the others. If you go from suboptimal volumes and do more to an optimal range, yeah, you probably get more growth. But even if higher volume, that's what this paper showed, was that, you know, as the volumes went up, growth kind of did. It was a big asymptote. Like it never flattened out completely, but again, there's only a couple really high volume studies, super high volumes, but it was just the return on investment, right? The proportional gains for every, and like I said, this was in usually single muscle groups. This cannot be sustained or done.
Yeah.
So what he is saying is that more volume does contribute to more growth. However, the return on investment is diminished more and more and more as you increase volume. Like you said, the isotope, where it basically plateaus at a certain non-defined point, that would lead to, so let's say you're, you know, a bodybuilder and you're trying to lift. You could lift 4 hours a day, miss 2 meals, or you could lift for an hour and a half, get 95% of the results, and then eat those 2 meals and likely get more results, because muscle protein synthesis is based on many more things than just weight training. Yes, tension is the big modifier, but you're also considering protein consumption, protein timing, you're considering sleep, like many other factors here. So, I mean, I can see the point. You definitely, I mean, you can make the argument that higher volume works better, but obviously for in a vacuum, you know, that's true, but not in real situations.
Solomon Nelson actually did a really good video on that. I will link it below. But yeah, if you see
also going back to the whole bar speed thing in technical form, and there's a video somebody might put up about a bunch of people that like train under him or with him or something, and there's a bunch of guys using.
Oh yeah, this
like,
what the fuck kind of form is this? What kind of fucking form is this, dude? Yo, come on, brother. This cannot be a row. This cannot be a row. He's obviously supporting this.
Might put up about.
Look at that. He's doing a stiff leg deadlift, not a fucking row.
Bunch of people that like train.
Yo, come on, dude. Catch me dead in the gym before I do this movement. Catch me dead in the gym.
Under him or with him or something, and there's a bunch of guys using admittedly perfect form with the most piss ass weights you've ever, and he caught all kinds of flack for it. It was like, yeah, Mike, these people's form is meticulous, but they're not lifting real weight.
That's the backbreaker row.
This won't get you anywhere in the real world. And he probably took that down too, because Mike doesn't handle criticism well.
I looked at some Instagram comments on a post I made a little while ago about another lifter that's in our kind of little forum, and his great technique, and there's people on there just dunking on him. And the thing is, like, whoever you are out there listening to this, there's a very high probability that I'm much better at making fun of people than you are. As a matter of fact, I can sit face to face with you and slam dunk on your entire life. It'd just be real bad news. Things I wouldn't even feel comfortable saying that are just true about you.
Yeah, I don't like that. It's kind of a vicious take. All because of someone that commented on the internet. I always think that's the funniest thing. The people who seem to get the most aggravated about the comments on the internet are also the ones who try to perpetually set themselves as the best or the authority in whatever matter they're talking about. And I think time and time again we just see that this is not the fucking case at all. Okay, hold on.
Oh, this was another beautiful straw man. Mike.
Hey man, even though our perspectives on steroids is the polar opposite. You have quickly gained my respect and definitely one of my favorite new fitness influencers. Keep up the good videos. I appreciate that, Wet Paint. And fuck opinions, right? At the end of the day, it's all about enjoying life and being happy, celebrating how great you are and not who other people are, right? So I think that's the most important.
You, Lyle.
I mean, this is deep, you guys. This guy literally pulled every receipt
Number
in history.
one is he takes technical failure very seriously. So whereas some trainees don't take technical failure so seriously, he holds himself back, fearing that the very next rep would be technical breakdown.
First of all, Lyle is talking about concentric failure, not technical failure. Technical failure is when you know your next rep, in order to be done, will have to be done improperly. Like you'll have to scoot your butt off of the leg curl machine in order to make it happen.
As RP goes, we're going to be sticklers on technique, and we always will be. And that's just our prerogative. Other people, maybe not. And I think that's where maybe there's like a little disconnect there.
Yeah.
Sorry to cut you off. I just
no. Yeah, that's totally valid. So that's one concern, is the technical failure, absolute failure discrepancy. Another concern is, so at the end of the day, when we're going close to failure in our videos, we're going close to the point where we think in our heads another rep will result in very poor technique or significantly altered technique.
Oh, right, and this is on leg curl set. What do you think of that?
Okay, now if you go back and look at the article series or listen to videos, I addressed that, and I made it very clear what I was discussing. I was not discussing technical failure. I was not discussing volition. I was very clear in what I was talking about. He was making the argument about something I was not talking about because that's what he's best at. What technical failure is there to occur on a leg curl? We're not talking about back squatting. We're not talking about deadlifting. The simple fact is that if you have any decent skill, you can do barbell complex movements to physiological failure. Now, I'm not saying you should, and most absolutely shouldn't, because it can be very dangerous. But if you are a highly skilled lifter, you absolutely can do it without ever breaking form. I put up videos of myself doing it. I put up videos of other people doing it. Irrespective of that, there is no technical failure on a fucking leg curl or a leg press or a leg extension. Spare me.
This is interesting. I think there is technical failure. I don't support it, but I believe that there is technical failure on something like a leg curl for sure. I just don't necessarily, I'm not in, full support of this as a primary mode of hypertrophy, but I can see where you could have technical failure. Let's say you're unable to reach full like contractile motion, right? You're not able to get those legs all the way. If you're lying down on a leg curl, you're not able to get the legs all the way back up to your butt. I could consider that technical failure, but I don't know. The antics, right? Like it doesn't really matter. The Art of Violence, 5 USD. How's life going? Mike and Chris Williamson did a recent video, and Mike creeped out one of the female personal trainers on camera. It was funny as fuck. I'll check that out. I got to go train. Have a good one all. Hey, man. See you later, Chris. Appreciate you being here. Ryan, he creeped out all the girls in that gym. That's crazy. Mike can definitely be a creepy guy. Yeah. Curls for girls. Yeah. That's nuts, dude.